Well, Russia is increasing its attacks on the Islamic State, releasing a video claiming to show the destruction of tankers that the terrorist group was using to smuggle oil into Turkey. This as the Islamic State suffered another big blow with Iraqi forces retaking the key city of Ramadi. We were just talking to Phil about that. Let's bring in former intelligence operative and author of How to Catch a Russian Spy, Naveed Jamali. And good morning.
Good morning.
I do want to stay just real quick on what we're seeing though with Ramadi. I mean, this seems to be a key victory that's being painted this morning for Iraqi forces.
It absolutely is. I mean, Ramadi is one of the two major cities that ISIS holds in Iraq, and look, the Iraqis did it, I don't want to say completely on their own, but fairly much, independently. And that's a pretty big thing.
But I think that we've been talking about special forces
with airstrikes, though, right?
Of course. And it's semantics when we say we don't have boots on the ground. The reality is that we have advisors. They're calling it expeditionary targeteers. I mean, the idea is that you have boots on the ground who are not only training but supporting, and when it comes to airstrikes, you have to have military personnel.
But explain what you mean to the viewers. And so
sure.
we've got guys on the ground with laptops. They're directing drone strikes, fighter strikes into areas that we think we need to disrupt their infantry. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. I would say there's sort of two silos. One is training the troops, and the second is the operations, which would probably consist of ISR, so intelligence gathering, as well as targeting, saying which, aircraft and what to target. So yes, absolutely, you're not having the Iraqis most likely calling in airstrikes directly.
So, you brought up the issue, by the way, of oil, which we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. So first I have to say, Naveed and I are in the Navy together, so go Navy. That's important to say this morning. Green Army, we just did that a few weeks ago.
That's right.
Naveed, I'm actually curious because you have so much experience with the Russians,
yes.
From your book, How to Catch a Russian Spy, which is the most interesting thing I read last year, or this year in 2015. What is their game plan with Syria? Do they want to keep Assad? Do they want to cut up Syria? I mean, because I think all of this, what we're seeing in Ramadi and what we're seeing with ISIS in Iraq, all goes back to Syria. Am I right?
That's right. And I think, you have to think of it this way. The Russians spend about $54 billion in defense a year. With 5,000 troops and about $1 to $2 billion, think of what they've accomplished in Syria. One, they've supported Assad, so he's now not going anywhere. But secondly, more importantly, they're now relevant. They have done something they haven't been able to do in 14 years. Whatever's going to happen in post-ISIS Syria is going to involve Russia. Russia is at the big boy table.
Why is that so important to Russia?
Well, Russia wants to stay relevant. They also want to make sure that their interests are protected in Syria. And look, I mean, the vacuum of the United States with the military kind of shrinking, Russia has kind of stepped into that.
I don't think that's a good thing, though.
Oh, it's a
I mean, we're
terrible
painting that I don't know that that's necessarily a positive.
Oh,
because,
it's absolutely not.
No,
yeah, Putin wants to keep Assad in place.
It's positive for Russia, but he wants to keep Assad in place for what reason?
I don't think he cares so much about Assad. He wants his interests in Syria to remain. I mean, they have two major bases there. Look, it's not just about Syria and the region. It's also about Turkey, which is, NATO. I mean, they want to stay there. They want to stay relevant in the region and as a world player.
But can Russia economically stay in Syria? I mean, look at the Russian economy. Well, I mean, you have a U.S. economy that supported the war in Iraq, but Russia is not in that economic
situation. But, Cheryl, for 70 years, they've been notorious for making less butter and making more guns. And so they can stay there for a very, very long period of time. And what Putin understands is that this nationalism, every time he does something like this, it raises his popularity in Russia.
And
despite the shortages, the food shortages, other types of shortages.
And remember, it's about 0.5% of what they're spending on their defense budget is actually going to Syria. It's nothing, and they can sustain it.
So what's going on with Putin and Trump? I mean, what do you think Putin? What's his
switching gears?
It's hair envy, Morgan.
I think Putin just loves. It's like he just loves to kind of mess with us. I think that he knows the drama this will. Look, he would support me, I suppose. I mean, he would do anything to just make drama for the U.S.
You think calling him a gangster is a good idea or a bad idea or a non-idea?
I don't know. I think that when it comes to Putin, the only thing Putin sort of respects is strength, and I don't think we've shown that. I mean, I've said this before. I think Putin has out-Reaganed us. I mean, it's kind of upsetting as an American to see that the Russians have taken a playbook from Ronald Reagan and are really using it so brilliantly against us.
When President Obama calls him a regional power, does that upset him? Or he laughs at that, too?
I'm sure he laughs at that. I think he does get upset. He's got quite an ego. But he's not a regional power, as we've seen with Syria. Look, the idea here is that Putin can go to any country and say, I got your back. And that country, look, Assad was on the way out.
And you brought up the leadership point a minute ago, and I think that's really crucial, because I think when we see a lack of U.S. leadership around the world, we see who steps up to fill the vacuum. It's Russia, it's China.
That's right.
And we have a wing of the Republican Party that's very troubling to me, that's an isolationist wing of the party that says, no, we don't need to be entangled in world affairs. And to that I say, then you imagine a world in which Russia and China, Iran and North Korea are running the place, because that's what we're setting up.
Yeah.
That's right.
Last word?
You know, I think that we have to, as Morgan said, we got to take the Russian and Chinese threat seriously. There's Syria and the ISIS, but Russia is going to be our main adversary for many days to come.
Is there a price for oil low enough that knocks him out of the game?
No, because I will tell, in regards to Syria, they've stockpiled so many weapons and oil that they don't need to rely on oil sales to carry out their campaign in Russia.
Naveed Jamali, that's the one. But where we can take the fight, as Morgan said, is the oil feeds. We should see. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go Navy.
Yeah, I know.
I'm going to read your book.
I know. Way to sell the book, Morgan.
You owe me.
All right.